Everybody, let's stay up here close together. I'm too tight in these rooms to really. Well, that's fine. We're going now. I'll just quickly say that welcome to the talk. And we have Edgar, Rojas, and Paul Jorgensen. The 4 pillars: passion, vision, communication, and execution.
Yeah, those things right there.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and close this. Hello, everybody. All right, so we're here to talk about the 4 pillars of leadership. This guy over here is Ed, and I'm Paul. And welcome, everybody, to ConVerge. So, Ed asked me to throw this slide in here. It was one that went up on Twitter a little while ago about how to ask questions at conferences.
It's pretty good. Pretty good. Pretty good guide.
And we do take questions, by the way. So, passion, vision, communication, and execution. Ed and I are both consulting enterprise information security professionals. And over the years, we've dealt with a lot of different customers. We've worked in for specific corporate customers as well, corporate environments. And between the two of us, we got together and compared notes. And we basically boiled down to these 4 elements, what comprises leadership, not just in security, but in general.
Right. So last year I had the opportunity of giving this presentation or something similar at B-Sides Detroit, and it was passion, vision, and communication. And with Paul, we realized that we were missing execution, which is probably one of the most important parts. So quick question is, what do we say, or how do we define a leader? Right?
Can you spot the leader in this picture?
So one of the things that I definitely live by, it's you have to have passion for whatever it is that you're going to do, whatever it is that you set as a goal, right? And if you're not passionate about something that you're doing, it becomes a chore. It won't be fun. So that's number one. And we're going to give examples as to how we put all these 4 things together to make things happen, to make our goals happen. Mm-hmm. So one of the most important things is when you are passionate about something, right, and you communicate properly, that means clearly to the audience, right, you will bring people into your passion, into your idea, because a lot of the things you cannot do it on your own. You need the help of a lot of people, right? How are you going to have those people help you? They have to believe in what you're selling. They have to believe in what your goal is. So when you talk to them, when you explain what you're trying to do, right? If you do it with passion, you do believe in what you're trying to do, you will have people follow you. And again, that works in any facet of life. As a project lead, which I'm currently fortunate to do that, as a goal, which we're going to talk about something called tactical edge, whatever you want to do, if you have passion for that, you will get it accomplished.
Yeah, and one important thing to note about passion is we don't necessarily mean running around being a cheerleader, being all extroverted and bubbly about this thing. I know a lot of professionals, leaders inside of our industry, where they're pretty low-key. They're kind of reserved. But when you get them talking about something that they're passionate in, you can hear it in their voice. You can see it in their eyes, the way that they behave. So we're not looking for, banners and balloons and all that fun stuff, but really coming across in your own particular way that you do actually intoxicate people with your passion.
Vision is extremely important. Vision is a goal, something that you want to achieve, right? And it doesn't have to be, something that's, put it this way, it doesn't have, there's no size to whatever your vision, your goal is, right? So for example, when I was coaching my son to be a soccer player, I'm a soccer player, I'm from Colombia, right? So I figure I know how to coach. I started coaching my son and I realized it's a different story knowing how to do something than teaching, right? coaching is teaching. So I started finding out, what do I need to do to learn how to coach little kids? And I found out that there's a training that you do as a soccer coach that you go through several levels. So I started going to these trainings, and I realized that I liked it. So one of my goals at that point was to become a professional soccer coach. Maybe do that as a career. I liked it, right? But I wasn't saying I want to become a professional soccer coach in 3 years or in 5 years. I put myself a long-term goal of about 20 years, right? It will take 5 to 6 or 7 years to be certified as a professional soccer coach. Doesn't mean that as soon as you finish, they're going to be giving you, Manchester United or Barcelona to coach, right? It's not going to work that way.
We have a lot of Americans in the room, so you might need to quantify that a little bit more.
But you may be able to get, Salt Lake Rapids or whatever. So I was saying that the goal doesn't have to be small, right? It can be something big. So I didn't get to become a professional soccer coach. I did obtain my professional coaching license. So I could have done it if I wanted to. But there were other things in life that did not allow me to do that. Mm-hmm. So, but again, if you have a vision and it's a clear vision, you can plan ahead. You can build a bridge that will tell you how to accomplish what you want to do. And again, it's all with passion, right? And having a clear goal, clear idea what you want to do.
Mm-hmm. And part of having that vision, that clear goal, is having that plan, but not necessarily making it a prescription or a recipe. You want to give your team, the people that are following you, enough room for them to be creative, to come up with new and interesting ways of solving that particular problem. So I love this particular quote right here. You want to give them the intent, right? You want to show them what the end is going to look like, and then let them come up with the ways of actually making it happen. You can be pleasantly surprised by what you get out of it.
And again, it's very, very important to realize what the picture conveys, right? It's a beautiful picture, beautiful, scenery, but it's cloudy, right? So your vision needs to be nice and clear. This is what you're looking at. This is what you're looking at, but in fact, this is what's being covered by the clouds. It's completely different, right? It's a completely different picture. And this is what you have to do with the communication part. Once you have a vision, once you have an idea, you need to be able to communicate so that it's nice and clear like this, right?
Which brings us to communication, right? So one thing, and this picture actually doesn't show it very well, but communication really is a two-way street. It's not just you conveying that passion and that vision, but also, again, taking input in the other way. Now, the ability to actually go and present the information clearly is very important, because this is what you hope that you're communicating, what you think you're communicating, and this might be what they actually hear, or the visual representation thereof. So it is very important that communication be a two-way street, that you take in input as well, but it is important that the person that is initiating the communication, when you're trying to convey that vision, when you're trying to convey that passion, you need to be as clear as possible. And one of the phrases that we like is ABC, always be communicating. When you're a leader, it's very important to keep in touch, to keep people aware of what's going on, and to continue to infect them with your passion and give them that vision.
Right. So, for example, I'm currently leading a group of consultants, about 15 consultants in a project for HP. And when I got in front to explain to them what the goal of the project was, right, I was explaining that. Right? To me, the goal of the project was very clear, correct? And I gave it in a verbal presentation, just like this one. What happened is that a few of them actually saw this. This is what they understood. It wasn't as clear as I thought I was being, right? So that experience taught me a lot of things that we read about, that there's multiple ways that people understand. Some are visual, right? Some they don't pay attention during a group meeting, but definitely in a one-on-one, right? Some you just have to tell them over and over again, what is it that you want them to do, right? So I learned that, and that's what we mean by communication. is you have to make sure when you're communicating with someone or with a group like we are here, that we do so in such a way that you understand what we're trying to convey, right? Mm-hmm. That it's as clear as possible. So in this way, we're going to be saying things over and over and over again and showing different graphics. For example, this is a perfect graphic. All right? That's extremely clear. That somebody actually had to put that sign, that's incredible. Right? That's just silly. Do not breathe under the water. But you have to do that, right? Because you have to be able to communicate as clearly as you can in such a basic way and such an easy way that the people will actually understand what you're trying to tell them, mm-hmm. right? This is extremely clear. Don't breathe under the water.
Yeah, and this happens to be one of the areas that unfortunately in our industry tends to be a major deficiency. The ability to communicate clearly to members of your team, to coworkers, to management, to leadership, even to executives inside of the organization. We typically do a poor job of this. And it's one of the areas where if you want to become a leader inside of your organization, this is a great place to start. Work on your communication skills, because it can help a great deal. Part of that goes to remembering who your audience is. So a number of years ago, I was doing a big two-factor authentication project. And of course, when I first went to management and finance and all that fun stuff to get the budget, two-factor authentication flew right over their heads, right? They had no idea what the heck I was talking about. So I had to make sure that I was very clear and very concise to explain to them what was needed and why. But then, of course, when I'm talking to my team about how to implement this, they're techies, they're rolling up their sleeves, they're ready to get this thing going. Again, back to the earlier slide, I painted them the picture, yep. and I let them figure out how to make it happen. But then my third set of constituents that I had to go talk to were my internal customers. I had to explain to them why this two-factor thing was going to be good for them. Because, I mean, man, everybody hates having to have this token and having to do that, extra login, blah, blah, blah. It's too much of a pain in the neck. So that became the biggest sales job that I had to do, was convey that, show them the benefits, and show them how security was actually solving a problem for them, even one that they may not have known that they had. So being able to talk to specific customers, to specific people inside of your organization, and tailor that message is another very key step to this.
Right. And also something that I also learned is that it doesn't matter how clear and how much work you put into the proper communication, how you're going to communicate your idea or your goal. There's always going to be one or two people that either will not understand or do not want to understand, right? So it doesn't mean that it's a failure on your part that not 100% of the people understood your idea, right? So we need to make sure that we understand that, right? In the current project, like I said, I got 15 consultants. Out of the 15, one is extremely difficult, keeps trying to do things his own way. And his excuse is always, oh, I didn't understand that's what you said. I'm like, well, 14 other consultants understood exactly what I was saying. You're the only one. I'm not worried about you, right? You continue doing whatever you're doing. So we have to understand that doesn't matter how much we work, how hard we work at communicating, it's not going to reach everyone, and that's fine.
Yeah, you're always going to have an edge case out there. And as a coworker of mine used to love saying all the time, do not manage to the exception.
Absolutely.
But now we're actually to execution. We're actually doing stuff. So we've had our passion. We've conveyed that through communication, and we've shared the vision with the people that are involved. Now what we have to do is actually deliver on this dang thing. So the execution is the doing.
And believe it or not, the execution part, if you have done the previous three, the communication, the vision, the passion, communication, the execution is actually the easiest part to do. And we'll go into detail into some examples in a little while.
Mm-hmm. I left this one in.
Yeah, I know.
Hope you don't
so no, that's fine. So this is a fantastic quote, and and I don't know about you, but I like reading. I'm in Twitter a lot, right? So I get a lot of my I get a lot of my some of the information, some of these quotes I get them from Twitter, and this is one of the many things about don't be scared of failing. If you fail, just get up, because now you've learned something new. What does Edison say? I didn't fail 100 times. I just found out 100 different ways of not doing that, or something similar. I always just mess up that quote, but that is fantastic. Never be afraid, right? Never be afraid to do something. If it's your goal and you believe in that, go for it. Don't let anyone stand in the way and say, no, you can't. And again, we will get into specifics on how we do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it is important to note that once we've gotten through to this particular stage, we're at the execution and delivery, it might fail. It might not deliver, but there's a lesson to be learned there, probably more than one. I certainly have learned more through my failures than I have through my successes.
I never failed.
Yeah, of course you haven't. Yeah, I mean, and you can go and end up with something that's actually better than what you originally had in mind. So this is the flip side of execution. Yeah. So the ability to fail quickly. Okay. I've gone down this path, and now I realize, hey, this thing isn't going to work the way that I wanted to. Maybe I need to go and take a step back, realign things, and then move forward. Maybe I need to scrap the whole project and start over again. Maybe it's something in between. But don't be afraid of doing that. And again, as part of that communication and passion and vision, you want to keep people up to date on what's going on, why it's failing, how you're going to address it. Be active in that. And again, maybe it's something where you just go and scrap the whole thing, and then later on, you dust it off with some new information, and you're able to move forward. Yeah. All right, so follow-up quiz. Can you spot the leader in this picture?
So, what we're saying about the 4 pillars of leadership: vision, passion, communication, and execution, right? We're all getting down to exactly what's leadership, what is it? And there's been many people that have tried to give us a definition of leadership. Former president of the United States,
Harry S. Truman.
Yeah, he's using the word persuade. Persuade is a very powerful, very powerful word, right? And again, it goes back to the idea of having passion for what you're doing, and then communicating with passion about your idea. You're actually persuading people to start doing what it is that you want to do, right? So, for example, about 5 years ago, I had my consulting company in Colombia and in Chile, and one of the things that I wanted to do was make or create a better InfoSec environment, right? Similar to what MySec has here, similar to what we're experiencing here, correct? It didn't exist. So I created a new event called Security Zone, right? And I brought people like David Kennedy, a whole bunch of people down there, Ian Amid, a lot of very well-known experts to Colombia, to Cali, right? And again, how did I do it? I did it because I had a nice vision. It was very clear. I had passion for that because I was able to convince these professionals to go to Colombia 5 years ago, when it's like Colombia. But I was able to convince 16 or 18 professionals from all over the world to come to Colombia, to Cali, for 5 days. So I was able to persuade them, right? So persuade is an extremely, extremely powerful word.
Mm-hmm. Well, and two, I like when they talk about the too lazy to do it. My example of this is, again, back in my corporate life. As the head of security, I needed a log management solution, right? Because I had my firewalls, I got my SIM, or my IDS, IDP, and all this fun stuff. I needed to aggregate all these logs and feed it into my SIM. But, as is often the case in many of our organizations, it's hard to get budget for security. So that left me with a bit of a problem, trying to figure out what I was going to do. Well, I did a proof of concept with one particular tool, and I went to the messaging folks inside of the organization. Lotus Notes, by the way. So I want to see all the shutters out there. So these guys had a particular issue that actually impacted me as well on the security side. Since there was no centralized logging, when we had to do any kind of an investigation that involved email, guess what? Those admins had to go jump on dozens of different domino boxes in order to find the logs to see what the path of this particular message was. So it would take them days, if not weeks, to actually do any kind of an investigation. That assumed that the server still had storage available to actually keep logs. Not an ideal situation. But then even when they had to do regular troubleshooting, they had to go through the exact same thing. So I went to them and said, hey, I got to do this thing. Why don't you guys try pointing your Domino servers over to this infrastructure and let's see how that works. Well, they went from taking days or weeks to do an investigation or troubleshooting down to hours once they had all these in there. So I had the vision, I had the passion, I communicated it to these guys, I got these guys involved, and then I stood back. And those messaging folks became my biggest advocates for rolling out this log management solution. And all of a sudden we had system administrators jumping on. We had the DBAs getting involved. Everybody was getting excited because all of a sudden they had this tool that was making their lives so much easier. So then when I actually went for budget to keep expanding this thing, I always had plenty of people saying, yeah, whatever we need to do. And then on top of that, as the security guy, I know that all the logs that I'm seeing that I'm feeding into my SIM are the real logs. We haven't missed anything because the admins are invested in making sure that the log management solution actually has real valuable logs. So I was killing many birds with one stone on that one. But that's where, motivating people, encouraging them to do this stuff can really be a benefit and can provide you with a position of leadership, even if maybe you're not in a management or supervisory role. Just because you don't have those kinds of titles doesn't mean you can't be a leader.
Right. So another meaning or definition of leadership, and again here there's two keywords, right? Influence the behavior. Persuade, influence the behavior. It's basically leadership, so it's basically having people do something that you want them to do without them knowing that they're doing it. That's another way of saying it, right? Mm-hmm. There you go.
Okay, and this one's pretty straightforward. Again, this is the opportunity that you get when you empower people to help you in these projects come up with really new and interesting and exciting ways of delivering that you may not have considered yourself.
Right. So, again, we believe that there is a recipe for being a leader. Paul and I are the believers that leaders are not born, leaders are made, right? And we follow that. We follow the vision, the passion, the communication, and now the execution. If you have all of those four, you have the leadership qualities. It's just a question of working hard at a few of those. Specifically, the communication part is the most difficult one. And once you're able to master that, you can do a lot of things.
Mm-hmm. Yes?
Question, what do you do when you encounter the Peter principle? You know, that time when someone's in a leadership position, but they're just there because they've been promoted to their highest level of competence.
Yep. So the way that I typically handle it, and again, a lot of it comes down to the specific personality of who you're dealing with, but oftentimes it's becomes kind of a leading the horse to water type of an approach. Don't call out specifically that they're doing anything wrong. Don't say that, don't argue with them about it. But if you can encourage them over a period of time, and hopefully you've got enough time to do it, give them little steps to help move them to that point without them even realizing that you're maneuvering them into that particular position. We've dealt quite often with folks as high as CISO and up inside of organizations that have no security knowledge whatsoever. But they're in this role. And the good ones realize that they don't know anything and will ask questions. Those we can deal with. But in that scenario, you get somebody in that position, they've got all this power, and they're not willing to admit that they don't know something. So they will run forward with every acronym under the sun without any knowledge of what they actually mean or how it translates to the business.
Yeah, so another quality I will add, thanks to that question that I'm thinking, is patience. Right? That's another part of being a leader is being patient.
Wait, are we going to have to make this
yeah, something like that, yeah. Okay. Triple P.
Yeah.
So that's a good question. I appreciate it. Thank you.
So again, this is something that I came up with, and I quite like it. And I mentioned it earlier. There is no business card. There's no job title that is leader, unless you're in like one of those googly kind of companies out west where they have all those squishy job titles. But there's also no magic incantation. There's no spell that you can cast that is going to make you a leader. It's something that you earn, and it's something that others see in you. And either they want to emulate it or they want to be a part of it. And again, that vision, that passion, being able to communicate it, and then being able to execute on that will make it so that people want to follow you. Conversely, the same traits apply for you and who you want to associate with as a leader. So, for example, in a previous gig that I had a manager who was just fantastic. And he was a leader as well. He was able to bring people around, not only to his point of view, but then they became infected with that same idea and that same passion. And so he is one of the people that I still emulate to this day. He's off in Canada doing something more fun than us right now. But you know, you want to find those types of people inside of your organization. If you happen to be up at the top level, again, there can be other leaders inside of your organization that maybe have attributes that you either want to grow in yourself or you appreciate in them, and so you want to be a part of it.
Yeah. So, I mean, and it goes with this slide, it's perfect, right? Believe it or not, here's a question that we're asked, you know, can you be a leader of one? And the answer is yeah. You can be your own leader, right? Because you need to be able to motivate yourself to do something. It has to be intrinsic. It has to be within you that you really, really, really want to do something, right? My motivation to become a soccer coach of little kids was my son, right? That was my motivation. My motivation to start security zone in Colombia, going against the odds, because I believed that I could do it. It's something that I wanted to do, so it was intrinsic. So you can be a team of one. In fact, that's how you actually, a lot of projects begin with just your one idea, correct? Mm-hmm. And then you start communicating, bringing people into your idea, into your world, and then you start growing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, and again, my example is the one that I just talked about with log management, but I had another one where back in my retail days at a big box store that may or may not rhyme with Best Fry, I was actually in the audio department. I got transferred over from the computer department to run this thing. So I'm in there and I'm talking with the team, and they don't really know who I am. I actually changed stores at the same time too. So I was an unknown quantity going in there. And there were some things around that I saw that needed particularly to be done. And, you know, I was talking with the folks, and they're like, yeah, but, you know, we just don't have time. So I went ahead and solved one of the problems that they had, which is in the old demo room that they used to do for the speakers and stuff. Not all the speakers worked. So all I did was I did some wiring, fixed it up, boom, all of a sudden it worked. That was just me on my own doing my thing. But then once the others saw that, all those other projects that I wanted to get done, they became interested and involved, and they saw that it wasn't just me flapping my gums. I was willing to roll up my sleeves and actually help make it happen. So helping do that execution phase on the good side.
Yeah. So this brings us to that question, right? Something that Paul and I posted just a few minutes ago. Are leaders made or are leaders born, right? There was a saying, see if I can remember it. The only thing that I'm born with, when I'm born, I'm bald, I'm toothless, and I'm naked, right? Everything after that, it's a plus, mm-hmm. Right? So, yes, we're not born as you're not born. You're like, you know, you're going to be a leader. You're not going to be a leader. You're going to be a leader. You're going to be a follower. It doesn't work that way, right? It's something that you earn as you mature, as you get older. Unfortunately, it happens, right? Wisdom comes with age, correct? Mm. So that's what this next. We saw this. So Paul and I do a podcast called PVC Sec. Mm-hmm. In case you guys didn't know, we're going to be doing the podcast here tomorrow live.
Yep, downstairs.
And we talk about leadership. We talk about a whole bunch of stuff in there, not too technical. We don't want to make it too technical. So this was one of the topics that we cover a couple of weeks ago. And Paul actually found this fantastic slide and which is basically tell you this is what you have internal, and this is your external, right? So if you notice, to be a leader, soft skills, I can read over there. So self-confidence, right? Self-awareness, self-compassion, resilience, perseverance. Those are all things that you learn, that you develop as you get older, right? When we were learning, if you remember, we were learning how to ride a bike. How many times did we fall off the stupid thing? Many times. But then we always got up and kept going, yeah? So those little things build that part internal to us that's going to make us leaders. Trump is in the news right now, right? Donald Trump. It's in the news right now for the wrong reasons, yeah? But look at that guy, right? That guy has been, broke multiple times, and he still gets up, right? Yes, he gets up because he's got like an $80 million fund anyway, even if he's broke, but he still gets up, correct? So, and now he's running for president. Fantastic.
Yeah.
So that's resilience. That's
Perseverance.
perseverance.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, well, and one thing too, if you notice for all of these different things, if you feel as though you're more introverted or more extroverted, certain aspects of these you're going to be more comfortable with, and other ones would be the areas that you would want to work on. But you'll also notice that all four of those pillars that we've talked about, passion, vision, communication, and execution, all exist inside of these to varying degrees.
The external soft skills is the ones that you develop as you gain experience, right? I mean, self-promotion. I just did it. Hey, we have a podcast called PBC Sec. That's self-promoting. We're going to be here tomorrow, 1 p.m. downstairs. That's self-promoting, right? Yeah, I'm sorry. No, please.
So many security and IT people, myself included, are introverts.
Yes.
What do you recommend for us to extrovert ourselves?
Do this. Seriously, do this. When I started, as everybody else, very scared of speaking in public, and I used to live in New York City, Manhattan. So one of the things that I did, and it had to do with my accent. And I didn't want to get up there because
You have an accent?
believe it or not.
Oh, okay.
So what I did is take a class, Dale Carnegie course, speaking in public, right? Those are things, again, that external soft skills, right? Becoming an extrovert, an influencer, networking. That's what we're doing. We're all doing that here, right? We're all doing networking, correct? Some of us feel better going, talking to somebody. Hey, how you doing? My name is Ed, Some of us don't. We need to know ourselves. Self-awareness. Where's self-awareness? Self-awareness.
Yeah.
Right? We need to have developed those internal skills so that we know what is it that we need to work on. And none of those skills are easy to learn. We have to work on, right? So if I'm self-aware that I'm an introvert, all right? So work on becoming an extrovert. It's simpler said than done. But again, if you make that your goal for next year, I want to be standing here next year in 2016 at B-Sides Detroit at ConVerge. I'm going to be giving a speech. That's a goal, right? Now your plan at that point is, how am I going to do it? And you have a whole year to be able to prepare yourself to be here and talk. And maybe your talk is, what did I do during the whole year so I'm no longer an introvert? That's a fantastic topic, right? Yes.
Yep.
Thank you.
And one other thing that I'll throw in there, because certainly I come in on that side of the spectrum as well, and it's something that we talked about in a podcast about a month or so ago. I can stand up here in front of you all and do this presentation just fine. It's when I actually get together and we do like a one-on-one or a small group conversation where things start to kind of fall apart. But depending on, again, you and what's right in your life, medication is also an option. It's when I'm doing this kind of thing, yes, I have a happy little pill that I take, and it makes the day go much better. So use whatever tools are available to help you, get through these particular things.
We don't endorse that.
Yeah.
We don't endorse drugs.
Yeah. Don't necessarily start popping
The
pills. 'cause Paul
Colombian
said.
didn't say use drugs. Remember that?
That's right.
So, this is fantastic, right? How many of us work for a boss? Oh my God. Yeah? We were in a project together. That's where we actually met in Tennessee, in Nashville, of all places. He had to travel down there. We worked for that guy. He was that project lead, right? You know what we did? We're like, I want to, suffer through this, right? Answer the gentleman's question. How do you deal with someone when you know he's not a leader? Well, we suffered through it. Why? Because we're like, we're going to learn to do completely the opposite of what he's doing right now. So that when we are given that role of leadership, we know now exactly what not to do, right? Mm-hmm. What did he used to do? Keep all information to himself. He didn't share information with anyone, right? Because information is power. Ed, you go do that. Paul, you go do that. And we're like, if him and I didn't talk, right, he would have called the client and said, can I talk to you, at 1 p.m. to ask you some questions? I will call the same client and say, hey, can I talk to you and ask you some questions at 1 p.m.? And the client will say to me, no, but come in at 2, right? So Paul goes first, then I go, I see Paul come out, I'm like, what the hell are you doing here, right? And then I start talking to the client, and some of the questions that I was asking were the same questions that Paul was asking. Why? Because we didn't have all the information, because this guy thought, I want to keep that information to myself. So that's one thing that I learned.
Yeah, and he was very compartmentalized as well. He did not have a vision. There was no clear plan. It was firefighting mode the entire time. We're going to deal with this emergency. You're not going to understand how it fits into the bigger picture and what we're trying to achieve here. I just need you to fix this thing right now. And then as soon as you're done with that, okay, I got this other thing that's blowing up here. So we're running around, and we actually ended up doing a lot of the same work 2, 3, and 4 times. Right. It's painful. So in summary, and I just like that chemical symbol.
We love that one. Right.
Well, we've made a pact that in our slide decks going forward, we're always going to have at least one unicorn in there. So,
so I found my passion. Let's go ahead and write it.
We've got the vision, right? I've got the plan. I've got where I want to get to, and then I'm getting people involved in how we're going to get there.
This is a real picture from a soccer team or a football team that ended that last year in the British in England. Those are the 2 coaches telling the players what to do during a game.
Yep.
I swear to God, I took a picture right there. I was like, how the? Never mind.
Yeah. So you got one guy going and saying, "I want you to run that way," and the other guy saying, "Stop."
And then finally,
execution.
Right? Execution. Once you have everything in place, because your communication, since you're going to be thinking how you're going to be communicating, you're actually in your mind also creating the project plan. How you're going to actually get it accomplished. And like I said, once you have all of that, execution is the easy part.
So leadership is the world is changed by one mad person and their ideas. That is, in our sense, the essence of actually being a leader.
Right. So if you have a crazy idea, you have the passion, right? You can make changes. So for example, can we switch really quick because we only have like 2 minutes?
Oh yeah.
So for example, and I was going to give you a real example as to what I'm doing right now. So if you follow me on Twitter, I'm on, and we'll show you my Twitter account in a second. It's Edgar Rojas, and again. So what I want to do, I'm here. I realized that I'm no longer in Colombia, but I noticed that the InfoSec community in Colombia, it's slowing down. It's going downhill, right? So I started a new project called Tactical Edge. It's going to take place.
That's for the podcast tomorrow, by the way, everybody.
It's going to take place October 2016 in Bogota, right? Again, it's my idea. Look who's coming. Wendy Nather, very well respected. Everyone knows Jack Daniel. Paula works for Poland. She's one of the 3 or 4 people in the planet that has access to source code for Microsoft that does not work for Microsoft. You have this guy, Rafael Laws, but anyway. So this is a project that's ongoing. It's for September, October 2016, right? If you follow me on Twitter and on the slide, let me show on the slide again. The first slide, you have my name,
all the way
my
up to the
Twitter.
end.
Follow me during the whole year. See how I do it, right? Because I just started. That's my vision. My vision is let's get Tactical Edge going and being a mini black hat in Colombia, in Bogota. It's just started. So follow me and come with me and see what happens next year when I'm here again in Detroit at this time next year. I can talk about Tactical Edge and we'll see how well it's going. But right now I already have 5 people, 5 other experts that are asking me, how can I go and be a presenter in Tactical Edge? And I've only started advertising this, 2 weeks ago?
Mm-hmm.
So I have my vision, I have my passion. Now I'm communicating it. And notice it's going to take me a year and a half or more to get it accomplished. But I will get it accomplished. So thank you.
Yes.
Appreciate it. Any questions? If you don't have any questions, if you see us outside, please, one-on-one, more than happy to talk to you guys and ladies. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, everybody.